You can't do this, you can't do that, so just what can you do? After a personnel change, I, Leo, found myself being tossed around by an abusive boss. I endured days filled with backhanded comments and excessive overtime. At home, I grappled with family issues, juggling worries about both work and family life, feeling like nothing was going right. During this time, a company trip was planned. However, on the day of, I discovered that I was the only one without a ticket. It's refreshing not to have to see the face of the idiot Burton while on the trip, LOL. My boss gloated, effectively excluding me from the trip. But this act marked the beginning of his downfall. My name is Leo. I'm 35, working in the public relations department of a food manufacturing company. I live in New York with my family, my wife Charlotte, who's the same age as me, and our 4-year-old son Jacob. Charlotte and I met in college and got married thereafter. I moved to New York from the Northeast, while Charlotte moved from Kentucky, both for education and then work. We're just an ordinary couple who moved to the city. After Jacob was born, we started sharing household chores and parenting more equally. Both of our parents live far away, so we've had to manage on our own. It's tough to tell Jacob to cheer up, I lamented. That's just how he is, Charlotte replied. But you know, it's just that little bit extra. If he had that, he might enjoy kindergarten more. We were a family of 3, living a normal life together. However, Jacob, at the age of 4, was facing challenges. Struggling with kindergarten life, he became stressed and unstable. Unlike Charlotte and I, who grew up to be outgoing adults in spite of minor issues, Jacob is delicate and sensitive. He worries too much and is overly empathetic. In a kindergarten full of energetic kids, he was reserved, cautious, and always watched others' reactions. Maybe a different place would be better, I wondered. Even so, moving around now is... Charlotte pondered the drastic step of transferring Jacob to another kindergarten. This led her to consider buying a house in the suburbs. Charlotte had such a big plan in her mind. I understand, but we have to think about work, I said. Yeah, you're right. When it comes to moving, I inevitably prioritize my job. Longer commutes aren't a problem. But there's a limit. The area Charlotte had in mind for moving would require a 1.5-hour commute one way. As someone who often works overtime, I wanted to avoid cutting into the time I could spend at home. There's elementary school to consider too, we still have options. I said, putting off Jacob's issue out of self-interest. I didn't intend it at the time, but I now admit that. Or rather, circumstances forced me to reconsider. Every day at work, while concerned about Jacob, my focus would waver. His face casting a shadow over my farts. Then, I received an unexpected transfer order. From the Public Relations Department to Sales Planning. Base a vacancy in sales planning. Someone retired due to health reasons. So, I'm the replacement. You'll be fine, you've honed your communication skills and PR, and you can think and act independently. My boss was confident about my transfer and gave me a pep talk. But internally, I was apprehensive about entering the unfamiliar field of sales. In sales, you have to chase numbers and compete with others. I, who excelled in creating and disseminating information in PR, couldn't quite grasp how to succeed in sales. I appreciate your support, I said. Well, I'm counting on you. Anyway, you've got work to do. When I greeted my manager, Olson, in the sales planning department, I got a lukewarm response. That was my first day in the new department. With minimal guidance, I was fully thrown into sales planning. Leo, can't you even make a proper daily report? A daily report? Oh, I'm sorry, this is the first I've heard about it. What, first time hearing it? Are you kidding me? Olson snapped at me, who was still not fully aware of everything in the new department. For forgetting to make a daily report I hadn't been taught or listed for. Leo, sorry about that, I haven't taught you about the daily report yet. Oh, yes. I meant to show you later, sorry, I forgot. No, it's okay, don't worry about it. At that moment, a kind colleague covered for me. The colleague also informed Olsen that me not knowing about the daily report was due to their lack of instruction. Oysen vented his irritation at my colleague for a while, but eventually calmed down. I managed to avoid trouble, but unfortunately, this incident ended up pitting Olsen against me. Olsen was hired through nepotism. A relative of the president, his parent was a former executive of the company. That's why he was more arrogant and assertive than anyone else in the company. That's how the people in sales planning described him. Even if you report things to him, he acts like it never happened. He habitually uses his power to harass us. A colleague said, exasperatedly revealing the truth about the manager. Coupled with his whimsical nature, the manager was known to torment those he disliked or felt were weaker than him. And I became the target of that bullying. Unfamiliar with the department, I hadn't fully mastered my job yet. This was precisely what Olsen targeted and exploited. Hey, Leo, haven't you closed a single deal yet? I was questioned by Olsen about my sales performance, but I hadn't yet gone out for sales alone. I hadn't been assigned specific clients, and when I did go out, it was with a mentor. I was still in a training period, and my performance wasn't yet under scrutiny. And yet, Olsen tried to put pressure on me. Aren't you embarrassed? Even the new hires are working hard. I'm sorry, I'll give it my all once the training is over. What are you, asleep? In sales, your job is to make sales, even during training. I was startled when he slammed something on the desk. Rather than feeling scared, I saw Olsen as a childish and hopeless person. He couldn't resist showing off his power, like a bad leader of a kid's gang. Anyway, at that time, he couldn't stop yelling at me, his target. Can't you even answer the phone properly? If a call with a client went long, he'd come over to my desk just to make snide remarks. If I was late in compiling documents for other departments, he'd scatter the papers on the floor and scold me. You can't do this, you can't do that, what can you actually do? I'm sorry. Apologizing is all you're good for, but man, I feel sorry for myself having to deal with such a burden like you. Olsen was the only one who enjoyed his jokes like that. Honestly, I was completely exhausted. As a form of harassment, Olsen even imposed unnecessary and dubious overtime on me. Frequent late-night returns became the norm, hardly spending proper time at home. Hey, aren't you a little too busy lately? Yay, well, it's sales, you know. But coming home at this time every day. Yeah, sorry, we'll talk over the weekend, I promise. Family issues and matters concerning Jacob remained unresolved. I was unable to talk with Charlotte on weekdays, and I was too tired on weekends, mostly just sleeping. Charlotte patiently endured, but I wondered how long she could keep it up. I was being forced into an incredible balancing act. As my external sales duties increased, I started becoming more like a salesperson. Olsen remained the same, but my time away from the office increased, making things a bit easier. However, the department was far from peaceful. A new employee applied for a leave of absence due to health issues, and everyone around was sure that Olsen was the cause. The new hire was burdened with impossible targets and made to perform tasks they'd never done before without any preparation. Despite the support from colleagues, they received miserable treatment. The higher-ups in the company must have heard about what kind of person Olsen was. But nothing changed. Well, after all, he's related to the company president. Those in the sales planning had long since become disillusioned with Olsen. Everyone just focused on their work, losing any desire to communicate normally with him. Then one day, a colleague brought up a slightly brighter topic. Looks like the company trip will be to Kentucky. The company trip, held every few years, was making a comeback after several years. It was a popular event where families can also join, and there was always a rush to sign up. That's great, Jacob and I will come too. All right, I'll put you down for participation. Charlotte, being from Kentucky, saw the destination of the company trip as an opportunity. For me, it was a chance to spend quality time with my family, something I hadn't had in a while. And going to Charlotte's hometown might make the trip more relaxing than usual. The application for the trip had to be submitted to my immediate boss. This made me a bit anxious. That's because my immediate boss was none other than Olsen. Still, I couldn't imagine him going so far as to sabotage something related to the company trip, and so I submitted the form. By train, right? Yes. On the day of the trip, the meeting place was set at the train station's main terminal. On the way there, Jacob was excited about his first ever train ride on the high-speed rail. Just watching him made me feel good about deciding to join the trip. At the meeting point, we greeted colleagues with our family. Soon, the organizer arrived and started distributing tickets. But then, an incident occurred. Our family's tickets were missing. Mr. Leo from Sales Planning, sorry, did you apply to join? Yes, I did. As I answered the organizer, I realized we had been tricked. Glancing behind me, I saw Olsen smirking. You're such a scatterbrain. You forgot to apply, didn't you? No, I did submit it, right. I confronted Olsen, remembering that I submitted the form in front of him. But he just pointed and said, "You're so stupid. Dad, can't we ride the train?" No, you can't. You and your parents can't ride. Olsen said this instead of me, crouching to meet Jacob at eye level, mockingly smiling at my family and me. Hey Olsen, that's not fair. Jacob burst into tears, and Charlotte tried to soothe him. I, too, was infuriated and yelled at Olsen a little. But Charlotte intervened. It's okay, let it go, she said, pushing me aside slightly and bowing silently to Olsen. It's fine, let's get new tickets and go on our own trip. But it's okay, let's go. Urged by Charlotte, pulling Jacob's hand, we left the company trip group. Reluctantly, I did as Charlotte suggested and got tickets to Kentucky. It's refreshing not to have to see the face of that idiot Burton on the trip, LOL. Manager gave us a spiteful farewell. Our family saw off the company group and took a later high-speed train to Kentucky. We explored places from Charlotte's childhood and famous sites by ourselves. We stayed at Charlotte's mother's house, relying on her hospitality. My mother-in-law was happy about our sudden visit. Well, I can't offer much hospitality. Sorry for the sudden visit. Just make yourselves at home, she said. My mother-in-law is the president of a food manufacturing company headquartered in Kentucky. The founders were her parents, and she has taken over the business. 10 years ago, her husband, my father-in-law, was also involved in the management. But since his passing, she has been running the company as its president. Let Jacob do as he pleases. Okay, but don't spoil him. Although busy, my mother-in-law values both her family and her company. She pursues employee welfare and work comfort, also engaging in volunteer activities. She took Jacob around the company, where many employees had children who showed interest in the president's grandson. Jacob, initially cranky, was cheered up by all the attention. It was a good decision to switch to a family trip, as suggested by Charlotte. If we had gone back home, the atmosphere would have been awful. Charlotte also seemed relieved to see Jacob's improved mood. It was supposed to be a company trip, right? That evening, my mother-in-law treated us to a lavish sushi dinner. While enjoying the meal, she casually brought up the events of the day. It was supposed to be, but it turned into a family trip, I replied. Unable to speak the truth, Charlotte explained the morning's incident in my place. She hid her anger and spoke calmly, but recalling the event reignited my fury. I don't know what to do. My manager is a relative of the company president. Honestly, he's a troublesome person. That's all I could say. Looking back, I could have spouted endless complaints. But I restrained myself in front of my mother-in-law. At dinner, focusing on enjoying the time with Jacob was the priority. Once we finished putting Jacob to bed, Charlotte and I had a chance for a real discussion. I think I should tell you everything, she said. Everything. About Jacob, our future. You've been putting off my mother's request, right? Oh, yay, that's true. Now's our chance to sort everything out. Charlotte held my hand, reminding me how fortunate our family was. We had a place to restart, and a job that didn't worry us about money. If there was a chance problems could become more complicated, she wanted to act before that happened. I won't force you, but we shouldn't endure unnecessarily, she advised. Persuaded by Charlotte, I made a decision. I then went to talk to my mother-in-law, who was working before bed. Greeted kindly by her, I briefly shared our situation. Listen, Charlotte, Jacob and I are facing some problems. I know, Charlotte told me. I'm sorry I haven't been strong enough. Jacob is struggling to fit in at kindergarten, feeling constrained. I see. I'm targeted by my boss at work. He's a habitual abuser of company power, and I'm his target. I apologized to my mother-in-law and shared everything Charlotte and I had discussed, though I couldn't remember the exact order. Finally, I conveyed the decision I had made about the offer she had previously extended. Even if it seems like running away, I won't make excuses. I'm serious about seizing this opportunity. I'll accept the offer you made before. I bowed sincerely, and my mother-in-law returned a deep bow. Without words, everything was understood. She then thanked me and offered a handshake. Thank you. I look forward to working with you for a long time. The next day, my mood was unbelievably bright. Thinking ahead made everything so far seem like a lie. Wow, it's big, Jacob said, looking up at my mother-in-law's company's factory. You can also see the mountains. Yes, you can. That morning, I had been showing Jacob around my mother-in-law's company. Charlotte had gone to meet a classmate. It was a brief moment of father and son time, with my mother-in-law too. However, I suddenly heard a familiar voice calling me. Leo, is that you? Why are you here? Manager Olson. I turned around to see Olson, with the company president standing behind him. My mother-in-law had stepped away for a moment, being called by an employee. Sorry, good morning. I quickly greeted them both. What a coincidence, said the president. Yes, indeed. Despite the situation, it was Olson who seemed uncomfortable, wondering why I, who shouldn't have been there, was present. Given the circumstances he'd prefer to keep hidden, his expression was downcast. From next season, there's talk of a business partnership and transactions with this company. We're here to greet in advance, coinciding with the trip, the president explained nonchalantly. Oh, sorry about that. My mother-in-law hurried back to join the conversation. After brief introductions and exchanging business cards, my mother-in-law smiled. Olson, in New York, my son-in-law has been under your care, I hear. I've heard you've been guiding him very strictly. Yes, your son-in-law. Yes, this Leo here, he's my daughter's husband. I didn't know that. Well, it's not that big of a deal. My mother-in-law, with her kind smile, subtly revealed some inconvenient truths to Olson. She referred to the harassment I was receiving as strict guidance, and hinted at who I was to check him. But I think there are limits to strict guidance, regardless of the times. Yes. As someone from an older generation, I believe harassment under the guise of strict guidance should be stopped. That's a very admirable attitude. Yes, which is why I've concluded we should not do business with a company that condones such harassment. At my mother-in-law's declaration, veiled in an angry smile, time seemed to freeze. About that. The company president, looking perplexed, began to speak, but my mother-in-law, still smiling, shook her head. I have no intention of changing my mind. I'm so sorry, let me apologize. In front of my mother-in-law and the president, Olson suddenly knelt down. I beg for your forgiveness, he said, touching his forehead to the ground. The company president, realizing the situation, also knelt down. I apologize for my lack of supervision. Please, reconsider. Despite the president and Olsen's apology, my mother-in-law showed no reaction. This stubbornness, or rather, this strength, was part of her charm as company president. Eventually, Olsen turned his kneeling posture towards me, grabbing the hem of my pants, urging me to help persuade my mother-in-law. When I refused, Olsen shouted, "You don't understand, this is a big deal for the company, that's why you're no good." Hearing those words, I was utterly astounded. Olsen's farts were filled only with self-preservation and his own comfort. He sought only immediate safety and concerned about anyone else. I decline. Also, it's a good opportunity to inform you that I will submit my resignation after this trip. What, are you crazy? No, I am quite serious. Crouching down, I explained to Olsen what was about to happen. Last night, I had agreed to take over my mother-in-law's company in the future. The previous request from my mother-in-law was exactly that, and I had finally made my decision. Once my resignation is complete, I will join this company. From then on, I'll work tirelessly for the future. That's impossible. Will you deny it? That's fine. When the time comes, I'll confront you head-on. The company president was the first to react to my determination. Silently, he deepened his bow, increasing the pressure. Olsen, following suit, remained motionless. "I'm sorry, but could you please leave? This is not a place for such unsightly displays." My mother-in-law ended the encounter with her best smile. With Olsen still trying to argue, and the company president disheartened, my mother-in-law saw them off to their car. That's refreshing. Watching the car drive away, my mother-in-law turned to me with a relieved expression. After the trip ended, I submitted my resignation. I quickly resigned and left New York, packing up my belongings. 3 months after the trip, I had settled in Kentucky with Charlotte and Jacob. I had successfully joined my mother-in-law's company and was now juggling sales and public relations, learning the ropes. Jacob seems overwhelmed by the kids in Kentucky, but he's enjoying it more than in New York. Jacob was now getting used to his new kindergarten, mingling with local kids. He's a bit cautious, but it seems he's made friends and is fitting in. I heard about what happened to Olsen through the grapevine. He had incurred the company president's wrath, been demoted, and ended up as a regular employee. His previous harassment cover-ups were no longer viable, pushing him into a corner. With more testimonies against him, he lost his place and eventually resigned. In contrast, I was blessed with good people and had the best fresh start. Aiming to be a company president worthy of my mother-in-law's name, I am committed to working hard for the future.